5 1-in-1. So we're really looking to get businesses in the door to start promoting what they're doing that's green. So we ask for business to have 5 sustainable practices. So really what we want is them to provide a written description about what they're doing that's green, and then we want 1 cost savings associated with that action, or it can be a cost avoided. So if you've switched out your lights, we can do like a quick back of the envelope calculation around how much money you're saving in your electricity bill. And then we also want 1 measurable benefit. So we can do something like looking at kilowatt hours you've reduced through doing those things. And it's great because every business gets their own profile, and then there's sort of like a little business case study that anybody can look at. So what are some of the eligible practices? Well, we keep it pretty wide open. Anything from environmental to community things. So have you participated in supporting a community donation or a drive or an activity in your community? That can be counted as being sustainable. Have you done any energy efficiency or any water conservation techniques? Are you composting your waste? Are you serving customers with disabilities? Have you done anything to improve your indoor air quality? Really runs the gamut. Are you doing recycling, any special recycling? Any business here recycle crayons, right? A lot of restaurants give crayons. Some of the restaurants on the registry do that, right? Something that you might not often think to do, but something even that little can have an impact. So Kathy from Jam and Crepes, are you in the room? Yeah. Thanks, Kathy. She's one of our businesses. I thought I'd feature one of the practices that they do there. They did upgrade some of their appliances. They have low-flow toilets, low-flow water faucets. So in 1 year, they saved over 14 gallons of water and over $200, right? So not crazy amount of money, but it makes an impact, right? When you look at all of these small businesses in New Jersey, across the state, you find real benefits. So why else should you join? Well, free publicity and statewide recognition. Perhaps you will get invited to speak at an event here. You get access to business seals and logos, so that can help you promote this green side of your business. We like to share information about grant opportunities, a lot of award opportunities, so that you can get more promotion that way, along with tips and resources. And because you do get your own special web page with your own profile, it's another way to increase your web presence. So right now, we have almost all the counties in New Jersey represented. We have over 140 businesses and over 18 food and drink establishments in the state on the registry. And so I thought what might be helpful was to look at what are businesses, and specifically restaurants, food and drink industry in New Jersey doing. So this is a little collection of what some of your peers are doing that have gotten on the registry, what their sustainable behaviors have been. So they're doing things from setting environmental goals to offering more vegetarian options. They're recycling their cooking oil and their organic waste, recycling used crayons, like I've noted. They're adopting no straw policies, no balloon policies. They're switching to paper bags into aluminum takeout containers. They're investing in reusable cups and plates and utensils. Some are even offering glass-to-go containers and then providing a discount if you bring that back on your next purchase. Right, so sometimes when you just hear do energy efficiency or do water conservation, it's hard to really actualize what those actions can be. And so I thought it would be helpful to break it down a little more. Additionally, businesses are switching out to LED lights. They're using motion sensor lighting in their restrooms. They're upgrading to Energy Star appliances. Again, installing low-flow fixtures, using water sense fixtures. Some of them are even installing electric vehicle charging stations. That can really help drive business to their restaurants because people are looking for places to catch a charge. Providing bike racks. They're sourcing local and organic ingredients, using environmentally friendly cleaning supplies, and offering their employees health benefits, right? So it's a full gamut of things. I hope that this can really inspire you to take the next step in your business, to maybe think about some small actions that you can take to become more sustainable. And as I noted before, right, when you look at your business, maybe you think, oh, that's not a huge impact. But when you look across the spectrum of all the other businesses on the registry, it's actually a huge impact, right? They've reduced their waste by 14 million pounds. They've saved almost $6 million. They've reduced or saved almost 12 million gallons of water, right? So there's power in numbers. And so I hope you guys do join the registry. And I have one more shameless plug for the DEP. We are going to be offering electric vehicle charging grants. So if you're interested in that, they're open to any institutions, businesses, workplaces throughout the state. So I really hope that you guys take a look at the grant and start applying. I think they open up later this fall. If you have any questions, please let me know. you, Helene. We'll get to Q&A after the next speaker, but one other idea for folks from other towns, what you could do to recognize the businesses in your town on the registry. What we do at Sustainable Princeton is every year we work with the mayor and council to recognize them at a council event. So they get a nice certificate, and they get some recognition from mayor and council for being on the registry. And then through our social media, we try to promote those businesses and recognize and help get the word out that these businesses have done these sustainable practices. Okay, next up is Jim. It is free to sign up for the registry, and it's as Helene mentioned, it's pretty easy. 5 things. One's got to be measurable, and one has to be a cost savings. And I'm sure you don't have to look very hard at your own operations to find out that you probably are doing 5 things to get you on the registry. Okay, Jim Friedel, who's the Outreach Program Manager of TRC. He's here on behalf of the New Jersey's Clean Energy Program. He has over 20 years of experience in outreach and marketing in energy efficiency, real estate, and IT fields. And he manages the outreach program for New Jersey's Clean Energy Program. So thank you, Jim.
So we've been talking a lot about sustainability. We've been talking about different levels of sustainability in terms of programs. One of the pieces that Helena mentioned was energy efficiency. And just a quick show of hands, I think I'm going to get fewer responses than you, Helena. How many people here have heard of the New Jersey Clean Energy Program? Oh, excellent. From that group, how many have participated and had incentives? Okay, good, excellent. All right, so I'll try to get through this as quickly as possible to bring us back online. But just quick background. As Christina mentioned, the program is funded through the Societal Benefits Charge. It's a line item fee on everyone's bill if you're getting your utility service through one of the regulated utilities. The goals of the BPU in this program are to save energy costs, save energy for small to large business, also reduce CO2 emissions, and then also change the business mindset. Many times efficiency in different industries isn't top of mind. Restaurateurs, great example. You have other issues on your minds before energy efficiency. We just want to make you aware of the fact that there are incentives available for you, whether you're a small business or large, to help you with those upgrades. So we have a large portfolio of programs. The ones that I'm going to focus on are benchmarking, a program called Direct Install, and then Smart Start Buildings. Okay. In terms of your efforts, when you go about where to start with my program, how do I know what to do first? Measurement's always key. So we offer free benchmarking for you. Essentially, that would be you providing 12 months of bills. We do an analysis. We develop a consumption and load profile, and then give you a ranking. And that ranking then lets you know how you are performing against like businesses in your area. You're also provided with an Energy Star Portfolio Manager account, which would then let you or help you track your usage as you go forward. Are you making progress with any of the updates and upgrades that you're making? So I mentioned Direct Install. Direct Install is a program that we put together for small to medium-sized businesses and facilities. And if you have a business that has demand that averages under 200 kW per month, you qualify for Direct Install. The program itself is a turnkey program. So essentially, you would contact the contractor responsible for your territory. They do all the paperwork. They come out and do an assessment. It's a walkthrough assessment. It's not an audit. You go through each piece of equipment, but they're going to get an idea of what kind of lighting you have, what kind of chilling requirements you might have, HVAC requirements, and there's other measures that they can use to provide you with essentially a scope of work. They would say, okay, here's what we see. You would benefit from upgrading these types of measures, these types of this lighting, for instance. They put together the scope of work. And this is non-binding. This is just something for you to look at and understand what that project might look like. And the state will cover up to 70% of the total cost of that scope of work. The remaining 30% is your responsibility with that contractor. Okay. There are caps: $125,000 project cap, and then per entity, $250,000. The cost benefit test, what they're trying to do is put together something that's cost beneficial to both you and to the program itself. So one thing that we do recommend is if you think you might fit into this category and you're pitching to get started on a project and you know it's pretty simple to screw in LED lights as replacements, stop. What they do is they use the return on investment, the average return on investments, to kind of provide a cost benefit analysis. Lighting has a very short return in terms of payback period. Okay? The more lighting you have, the more of the other measures they can screen into the project. HVAC systems, chillers, that sort of thing. So it's worthwhile to contact your local direct install contractor before you even take that first step of trying to replace lights, just to see what you might be eligible for. And again, this is a very fast turnaround for these projects. They're averaging about 4 to 6 months. And again, incentives are probably the most generous within the program. Some of the measures that are covered, as I mentioned, the lighting, HVAC, they do it variable frequency drives, motors, and refrigeration. One thing at the very bottom, no commercial food equipment in direct install. We do have, as I'll get to, the Smart Start program that does cover a lot of your cooktops, your ovens, your dishwashers, that sort of thing. A couple of quick examples. Library 4, they had a total project cost of $61,000. The incentive was just over $42,000. And their annual savings were about $9,000 a year from an energy efficiency standpoint. They're looking at a 2-year payback. McDonald's, so you're looking at quick service restaurants. This particular franchise, the investment was $59,000. I'm sorry, the project was $85,000. The incentive was $59,000. And their payback is about 2.7 years. So you can see with the assistance of the direct install program, because that incentive is so lucrative, it really brings some of these larger projects, especially ones that include HVAC and chilling, down into a reasonable time frame. And it has a very attractive payback period. So I mentioned Smart Start buildings. This is our prescriptive program. By prescriptive, I mean I'm replacing one light, here's the bulb. I'm replacing an HVAC system. Just so one-for-one types of replacements. And so for this program, it's open to just about any sort of situation. Direct install, you have to kind of qualify for based on usage and what your profile looked like. Direct install can catch any opportunity. So we're looking at renovations, remodeling, new construction. And again, it's available to all of the customers across New Jersey, commercial, industrial, agricultural, universities, hospitals. I mentioned the prescriptive, there's also a custom path. So if you're using something that is not listed as one of the prescriptive measures and does not have an application on the website, it might be custom. That's just a methodology that allows it to say, okay, what do you estimate those savings are going to be, over what period of time, what are the incremental costs, and then we can come up with an incentive based on those savings. And again, the caps on this program are $500,000 per year for each account. So 500 electric and 500,000 for gas. I did mention earlier that we do have specific prescriptive incentives for food service. And here are some of the pieces that are listed, and they go into more detail. I just took something at a very high level. So you do have your ovens and your steamers, you have your ice machines, the fryers, the grills, the holding cabinets, the dishwashers, all of which have incentives available through the program. So it makes a great deal of sense to take a look at this site. Don't get intimidated by it. There's a lot of information on that site. It will go through a bit of a refresh in the future, but right now it's all out there for you to find, but it is all available. If you can't find it, you can always contact me or someone else in the office who can help you through that process. And this just goes over a little more details on the custom projects, the types of things they're looking for in terms of savings. The other piece is if, let's say, I talked about prescriptive lighting, one other kind of gotcha that I want to let you in on. If you go through a prescriptive lighting project, it does require pre-inspection, okay? Or pre-approval, I should say. Some of them will go through pre-inspection. So again, don't install your lights and then come in for the incentive. I can't grandfather you back into the program. Contact us first, all right? If you have, you're thinking to yourself, well, wait a minute, we just upgraded our HVAC, we just upgraded some chilling equipment. We are able to go retroactively on that type of equipment up to a year from the purchase. So if it's something you've already gone through, you're okay maybe on the mechanical piece, contact me or again someone in the office, and we can take a look and see where you are. There's another program that may be applicable. It's called CITIE. Yes, we love our acronyms. The Customer Tailored Energy Efficiency Program. This is one in which you have multiple types of applications. Maybe you have multiple prescriptive applications and a custom. What we do is we kind of combine those together. We make it a little bit easier. We take some of that paperwork off of your plates and allows us to kind of go through that process. There's also a little more hand-holding in this one. We will come out and do a quick assessment, but we'll also look at scope of work and see if there's other opportunities that you might be missing. You might want to take advantage of and tell you what those incentives might be. So that was it for this piece. I know it was fast. I know it was a lot of information. But I do encourage you to go to the mjcleanenergy.com website, see what sort of incentives are available before you start your project design even. Maybe there are things that we can do to help you kind of save more and save more money as far as upfront costs.
Jim, I think it bears repeating, these programs are funded by all of us if we pay utility bills, so the money is there for us to use for these purposes. There are some handouts on our table there for the program manager for the direct install program here in Mercer County. So if you would like, if you're interested in the direct install program, please stop by our table and pick up some of the handouts with the business card of the company that handles it here in Mercer County. Okay, so we're a little bit behind, actually we're quite a bit behind, but we're going to have some Q&A before we take a break. So if there are any folks that have questions for Helene or Jim or John, yes, Josh?
So for Jim, we've, as an architect, we've worked with the direct install program a number of times, but we've also had clients who are interested in taking part in that program, but because they were taking over a space that hadn't been occupied for a period of time, they ended up with not being able to produce the historic documentation on electric or heating, cooling, and then so that was one issue. And the other issue is on occasion the property owners we deal with they want to use their specific contractors and don't necessarily want to use the contractors that are part of the program. So those two issues have come up over and over again in our projects. What do you say?
As far as the time that you need to be in a location, occupying the location, I think the direct install program is looking for at least an 8-to-4 split. So they will take, I think it was up to 8 months prior, but quite frankly, that business needs to be a light business, because if they come in and they kind of do something that's going to be completely different, they can't model that as well in their tool. This is a like-for-like exchange. They're looking at taking existing HVAC systems, for instance, and replacing it with the same tonnage or same size unit. So if there's a dramatic change in the use of that property, that might throw off the model and how they can kind of work that. But they should be able to do a split. But yeah, that is a difficult. Typically, ideally, it's 12 months you've been there, and they get that bill history, just to create that load profile. But in lieu of that, they will take a split. And I can double check that for you as far as the time frame is.
Follow up on that question. What if you lease? And how would you take advantage of these programs if you lease?
If the electricity or utility bill is in your name, you can take advantage of it. The challenges become when you have a triple net lease or a situation where the landlord is paying for the utility and then just passing it through. There's not a lot of incentive for them to participate. They're just passing through that bill. With direct install, if you do qualify for that, it's a conversation with your landlord and say, they're going to cover 70% of this. We can come to an arrangement on 30% and how I pay that back. It's going to be a conversation. There's no program in place to help kind of mitigate that situation.
Yeah,
go ahead.
If you've got a landlord and he's got the whole strip club, now he's using a lot more than 200 kilowatt peak, even though your little business is less, and usually the landlord is the one doing this because the bills are the same.
Yeah, I was assuming sub-metering, where they would have some sort of information about what your use was. If it's not sub-metered by them, and they don't have that information, that would be a much more difficult proposition. Because they're going to need to figure out, okay, for your size, what is not only your kilowatt-hour consumption, but your demand consumption. And they would have to negotiate that with the direct install contractor and say, here's how we're doing this, we can segment it off. The program manager can help with that as well, but they would need to get some of that detail. It's not, if they don't have separate detail in that space.
Question there in the back, gentleman in blue. Yeah.
Hi, the clean energy program seems to use economic incentives to shift the market towards your desired outcome. And I'm wondering, and it's been successful from what I can tell, relative to the food to table, farm to table, whatever you call it, John, what would you see as probably the most compelling thing we could do to shift economic practices that would move things in the direction that you aspire to?
Well, I think that for us, the biggest challenge has been awareness, quite frankly. You know, our economic stimulus, if you will, are the incentives themselves. We're trying to take technology that at one point was leading edge. LED lights is a good example. Those incentives have come down simply because the price of LEDs have come down. So as the technology becomes more mainstream and those prices are reduced, we see that we can adjust the incentive profile or the incentive structure and focus on newer technologies and look for things that are not so much bleeding edge, but things that otherwise may not make their way into projects. So we try to keep an active adjustment, if you will, on incentives and make sure that those things that require incentives get them, and then the others, you know, they can take on more market price. Yeah.
I was curious to know, John, your view of how that could apply to the farm to table.
I think it's a very important link that you know, being energy independent is a big part of what we're talking about. So it gets back to it's not just one thing; it's the package deal. And so being able to reduce your energy bill, your energy usage, the waste, that it all goes together. And you know, the idea of being aware of these programs, that is the hardest part, right? Like, I'm not sure how many people here knew that this existed.
Gentleman in the white shirt right here.
So I was wondering if you're starting to design a restaurant project right now, what would be the correct pathway in order to be able to take care? Suppose you wanted to have geothermal heat pump systems and a lot of passive and active type systems.
So for those who couldn't hear a question, for those who are looking to start and design a restaurant, what's the correct pathway if you're going to start?
Would you, for example, install it, the pipes underground, and not actually use them for 8 months?
So I think that probably the best way to start is have your architect or your builder or whoever's engineering, you know, the restaurant itself. Have them become aware of the program, because getting them involved in the process early on can only help, you know, the outcome. And so to try to kind of estimate on your own what sort of things should be used probably won't be as successful as having them understand what's my lighting load, you know, what does the kitchen load look like, so that can size my HVAC system, and then what kind of incentives are available. Depending on the size of the restaurant, if we're talking over, you know, 200 kW, there may be other programs that are more amenable to you that will give you the best incentive. So our idea, our thought is get the end user the best incentive they can get, and that's the aim. So get your engineer and your architect involved with our program.
Can I ask a quick follow-up question to that? Is the permitting and variances and anything that goes along with getting the project approved from the powers that be included in what's covered?
In terms of the incentives, it's really it's the measure or the lighting piece itself. It's not, we're not looking at that aspect of it. It's only the efficiency.
Okay, question back there.
Jim, is municipal government eligible?
Municipal government is eligible. In fact, one of our more successful programs is LGEA, the Local Government Energy Audit. It allows municipalities, schools, nonprofits to have an actual audit. This is not an assessment. This is not a walkthrough. There are auditors that come out and take a look at your facility, go over every light fixture, they go over the date plates on all your equipment, and and they also do an Energy Star portfolio manager and provide that to you. They end up with a large report, they present the findings of the report, the recommendations. If it's direct install, they'll provide you with your direct install contractor. So it's a very comprehensive project. In terms of incentives for equipment, they're eligible just as any other business would.
So nonprofits are eligible too. So for the eating clubs here in Princeton, would those be eligible for the programs?
If it's a nonprofit, they should be eligible.
But commercial or regular commercial are eligible for these programs, right?
They're eligible for the incentive
For the
programs.
incentive, yeah.
For
But
the audits,
LGEA
the
has-
LGEA is something that
It's
we
for
have
nonprofits,
municipalities.
local agencies. And the direct install, again, the audits are free, right?
The audits are free, yes. If they're going to do some upfront kind of work with you and find out, okay, what is your usage, they're going to need the bills to understand whether I can qualify.
Yeah.
But yes, that is a free assessment.
Well, I want to make sure we all have time for a break and we can get things wrapped up in time for our second set of speakers and for the tour of the biodigester, which I hope everyone stays around to check out. So we're going to take a break here. We're going to come back, I'd say, around 10:50. But please feel free to ask any questions you didn't get a chance to ask of our speakers.